Welcome to Deep Dive Patristics, where two AI personalities tackle deep Orthodox Christian topics with clarity and precision. Let's dive in. All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely. Always up for exploring some wisdom.
Well, today we're tackling the Philokalia.
Ah, classic.
And specifically, we're zeroing in on Saint Isaiah the Solitary. I mean, I know you already know this, but the Philokalia is like this amazing collection of texts by these Orthodox Christian masters. But, and this is what I find so interesting, it's not just like some ancient dusty doctrine, you know?
Yeah.
It's seriously practical advice on inner transformation.
I think that's what makes it so enduringly popular.
And that's what we're really going to focus on today.
Okay, sounds good.
Especially like Saint Isaiah, he's got these powerful insights on guarding our intellect, which, let's face it, feels more relevant now than ever.
Absolutely. In today's world, I mean, think about it. Constant information, distractions everywhere. It's like Saint Isaiah is a beacon of clarity in all that noise.
Yeah, and it's not just for people living in monasteries or anything.
Right. He's getting at something much more fundamental.
About being human, right?
Yeah, exactly. Something we all deal with.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that really struck me reading him was it's this emphasis on what he calls inner work.
Okay.
You know, like he's saying outward actions, sure, they're important, but...
You got to have the foundation.
Yeah. Without cultivating the right inner state, we're just like going through the motions.
Like that classic metaphor, right? Cleaning the outside of the cup.
Oh, yeah.
But the inside is still a mess.
Still dirty.
Saint Isaiah, though, he takes it a step further.
Okay, how so?
He introduces this idea of anger of the intellect, which I'll admit sounded a little jarring at first.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Not exactly what you think of when you think about, like, spiritual growth, right?
Right. But when you dig deeper, it starts to make more sense.
Okay.
This isn't about the kind of anger that, leads to rage or holding grudges.
Yeah.
It's more like a very focused, almost like a righteous anger, directed at the things that are holding us back, the things that keep us from really progressing spiritually. Think of it like almost like a warrior's fierce determination, to protect something precious.
So it's more about recognizing and confronting those inner obstacles, the like negative forces that are always trying to like trip us up.
Exactly. Saint Isaiah, he uses this analogy of a city under siege.
Oh, okay.
If we're not careful, if we let our guard down,
yeah,
those forces can sneak in and just cause chaos.
So we need to be vigilant. But how? Like, what are the tools we can actually use to guard our intellect, especially in a world that feels like it's designed to distract us?
Well, St. Isaiah points to our conscience. Our conscience is like a crucial guide.
Okay.
And he uses this really powerful image from Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, the parable about settling with your adversary quickly.
Oh, right.
It's like he's saying, don't ignore that inner voice, that sense of, right and wrong. That's there to guide you, to protect you, to help you get back on track when you start to stray.
It's interesting because this idea of like staying vigilant, not letting your guard down, it reminds me of something else St. Isaiah talks about. That's the importance of stillness.
Hesychia.
Yes. Hesychia.
It's more than just finding a quiet place to meditate, though. It's about, cultivating a really deep inner stillness.
Yeah.
That kind of focused attention that lets you see through all the noise and distractions of the world.
I think a lot of people, they might hear the term hesychasm and think it's something purely historical, like, oh, that's just for monks back in the Byzantine era or something.
Yeah, that's a pretty common misconception.
Yeah.
But, while it definitely flourished in that context, the essence of hesychasm, this practice of inner stillness, it transcends time and place.
Yeah.
It's like a universal human need, this longing to connect with something deeper within ourselves.
And especially now, right, in today's world, we're constantly bombarded with information, with stimulation. That need for stillness feels even more urgent.
Absolutely. It's like our minds are being pulled in 1,000 directions at once.
Yeah.
And Hesychia offers this way to reclaim our attention, to find that center of peace and clarity, right in the middle of all that chaos.
So how does this all connect back to the Philokalia and to what St. Isaiah is teaching? Like, where do we even start to apply these principles in our everyday lives?
One of the most powerful practices that emerges from the Philokalia, and something St. Isaiah emphasizes, is the Jesus prayer.
Okay.
The simple, repetitive prayer.
Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me.
That's the one. It becomes a tool for cultivating that inner stillness.
That focused attention.
That allows you to connect with something beyond just the surface level of your thoughts.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the Jesus prayer? Like, what makes it so special?
It's not just about reciting the words.
Right.
It's about using those words as a focal point.
Okay.
A way to kind of quiet down all that mental chatter. To create a space for a deeper awareness to emerge.
I can see how that would be so valuable, even for someone who's not, deeply familiar with Orthodox Christianity.
Absolutely.
It's about accessing a deeper part of yourself.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is that this practice, the Jesus prayer, it's woven throughout the Philokalia.
Really?
It connects centuries of writings and teachings. It speaks to this universal human longing, this desire to connect with something greater than ourselves.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Inner work, the concept of anger of the intellect, the importance of vigilance, of stillness, of hesychia, and the power of this Jesus prayer. But how do we take these ancient teachings and make them relevant for us today? I mean, most of us aren't living in monasteries, right?
You're right. That's a great question. And it's something St. Isaiah actually addresses.
He does.
He acknowledges that the context of his writing might seem, a bit far removed from everyday life for most people. But he also emphasizes that the principles he's talking about, they're timeless, they're universal.
So it's about applying the principles, not necessarily copying the exact lifestyle.
Precisely. And he stresses how important it is to find guidance.
Like a teacher. Yeah.
To connect with others who are also on this path of, spiritual growth.
That's like having a mentor or something, someone who can kind of help you navigate the challenges.
Absolutely. Like having a Sherpa when you're climbing a mountain. They've been there before.
Right.
They know the terrain.
They know the pitfalls to avoid.
Exactly. And just as importantly, they can offer encouragement, remind you why you set out on this journey in the first place.
That's so key. So we've talked about inner work, guarding our intellect, finding guidance, but how do we connect all of that back to this idea of love of the beautiful that the Philokalia really embodies? It seems like there's another layer here that we haven't fully explored yet.
That's a great point. And it brings us to the heart of what St. Isaiah and the other Philokalia authors are really trying to say. When we cultivate inner stillness, when we start clearing away the mental clutter, the distractions, we create a space for a deeper awareness to emerge.
So it's not about withdrawing from the world. No.
It's about seeing the world differently.
With new eyes, yeah. The world becomes a reflection of the divine. Even the most, mundane aspects of life can be filled with a sense of wonder.
It's about recognizing the sacred in the everyday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where the transformative power of the spiritual path really lies. It's not about escaping reality.
Yeah.
It's about fully embracing it.
With all its, imperfections and challenges.
And finding the beauty within it.
That's powerful. So it's about shifting our perspective.
Yes.
Not just on the world around us.
But also on ourselves.
And that shift in perspective, it can have such a profound impact, right?
Yeah.
On how we relate to other people, on how we approach our work, even on our sense of purpose. Like why we're even here.
Absolutely. It's about aligning ourselves with a deeper reality. That transcendent source of life and truth that the Philokalia points towards.
It's about connecting with something bigger than ourselves, something that gives our lives meaning. Yeah. And that connection, that can be cultivated through practices like the Jesus prayer, which brings about a sense of unity.
Unity with the divine.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. I'm curious, how do you see these teachings, the teachings of the Philokalia, influencing the modern world? Do you think they have something unique to offer, especially now in our current cultural climate?
I absolutely do. Think about it. The world is facing some unprecedented challenges right now, right? Climate change, political polarization, social unrest.
Yeah.
And yet in the middle of all this chaos, there's this growing thirst for meaning.
Yeah.
For connection, for something that goes beyond the material world.
It's like people are looking for an anchor in the middle of a storm.
That's a great way to put it. And that's where these teachings of the Philokalia on inner transformation, on cultivating this deeper awareness of oneself become incredibly relevant.
So it's about finding that inner stillness and strength, the kind that lets you face the challenges of the world without being completely swept away by them.
Exactly. The Philokalia offers a path to cultivating resilience, compassion, and a sense of interconnectedness. And that can help us not just survive these times, but actually thrive.
It's about recognizing that real change starts within, right? And that by changing ourselves, we can actually contribute to changing the world around us.
Beautifully said. That's a powerful message, and one that resonates deeply with the challenges we're facing as a global community.
Couldn't agree more. So, before we move on, one final question for you. If you had to distill the essence of St. Isaiah's teachings, specifically on guarding the intellect, into one key takeaway, what would it be?
That's a great question. I think the most important takeaway is that our intellect is a precious tool. It's powerful.
Yeah.
But it can be easily hijacked by external forces if we're not careful.
It's about reclaiming our minds, right? Like our attention. And directing our thoughts towards what really matters. But how do we even begin to do that? I mean, we live in a world that's constantly vying for our attention. What would St. Isaiah say to someone who's like, scrolling through social media for hours, feeling totally drained and disconnected?
Well, I think he'd probably remind us of that city under siege analogy.
Oh, yeah, right.
Our minds are like those city walls.
Yeah.
And we have to be really careful about what we let in. It's not about becoming a hermit and completely cutting ourselves off from the world.
Right.
But it is about making conscious choices about where we're putting our attention.
So it's like creating a filter.
Exactly.
Being more discerning about the information we take in.
Yeah, about the influences we allow into our mental space. And that's where this idea of guarding the intellect really comes in. St. Isaiah actually gives us some pretty practical tools for strengthening those mental walls.
Okay. What kind of tools?
Well, he talks about cultivating awareness of our thoughts.
Okay.
Like noticing those negative patterns, those distracting patterns, and then gently redirecting our attention back to the present moment.
So it's about developing this inner observer.
Yeah.
That part of us that can witness our thoughts and emotions without getting totally swept away by them.
Exactly. And this practice of self-observation, it's closely tied to the role of the conscience as our guide.
Right.
The more attuned we become to our inner landscape, the more easily we can recognize when our thoughts and actions are aligned with our values and when they're not.
It's like our conscience is this inner compass, always pointing us back in the right direction. But what happens when we kind of get off course? How do we deal with those inevitable moments of weakness or distraction? We all have them.
Well, St. Isaiah reminds us that the spiritual path isn't about being perfect. It's not about achieving some kind of unyielding mental state where you never get distracted.
Yeah.
It's a journey, and there will be ups and downs.
Moments of clarity and moments of confusion.
Of course, yeah.
The key is to not get discouraged, to see those stumbles as opportunities to learn and grow.
So it's more about progress than perfection. Recognizing that even those moments of distraction, they can actually teach us something about ourselves. About our patterns.
Exactly. And that's why he emphasizes the importance of seeking guidance, of finding a mentor or a spiritual community that can offer support and encouragement along the way.
It's like having a fellow traveler who gets it, who understands the terrain, who can offer, a helping hand when you stumble and celebrate your victories with you.
Right.
It's like those ancient pilgrimage routes.
Oh, yeah.
Where travelers would support each other, share stories, wisdom, and help each other stay on the path.
That's such a great image. It speaks to the heart of what St. Isaiah is trying to convey, this journey of inner transformation. It's not something we have to do alone. There's a rich tradition, a wealth of wisdom and practices, a whole community of seekers who've walked this path before us.
So if someone's listening to this and they're feeling inspired to, start cultivating more inner stillness, to start practicing this idea of guarding their intellect, where would you suggest they begin?
Well, remember we talked about the Jesus prayer.
Yeah.
That's a really good place to start. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and simply repeat the words, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. Just focus on the words and let them kind of wash over you.
I love that. It's simple, it's accessible, but like you said earlier, it has this incredible depth and power to it.
Exactly. And it's a practice that you can integrate into your everyday life, whether you're, commuting to work or washing the dishes or just taking a few moments to pause and reconnect with yourself.
Now, I imagine for some people, the idea of reciting a prayer might feel a little, intimidating or foreign. Are there other practices that St. Isaiah recommends for cultivating this inner stillness?
Absolutely. He talks about how important it is to be in nature,
Oh.
to find moments of solitude and contemplation. Even something as simple as taking a walk in the park.
Yeah.
Paying attention to the sights and sounds around you can be really powerful for quieting the mind and reconnecting with that sense of peace and presence.
It's like hitting the reset button on your inner operating system, just giving yourself a chance to step away from all the mental chatter and just be.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't about escaping the world, but rather about returning to it with a renewed sense of clarity and purpose. The more we cultivate that inner stillness, the more we can see the world with fresh eyes to appreciate all the beauty that surrounds us.
It's like we're training ourselves to see through a different lens, one that allows us to perceive the sacred in the ordinary, the extraordinary in the everyday.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it speaks to the transformative power of this spiritual path. It's not about becoming someone else, but rather about uncovering the depths of who we already are.
And this uncovering, this process of inner transformation, it's not something that happens overnight, right? It's a lifelong journey.
Absolutely. And St. Isaiah reminds us that it's a journey that's full of both challenges and joys.
Right.
There will be moments of doubt, moments of frustration, moments where you feel like you're taking 2 steps back for every 1 step forward. But the key is to persevere, to trust the process, and to remember that even in those moments of difficulty, there's always something to be learned.
It's like a spiral path, isn't it?
Yeah.
You might revisit similar themes or challenges at different stages of your life, but each time you're approaching them with a deeper level of understanding.
That's a wonderful analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And it speaks to the beauty of this path. It's not about reaching a destination, but about the ongoing process of growth and transformation.
So it's not about arriving at some perfect state of enlightenment, but rather about embracing the journey itself with all its twists and turns.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of love of the beautiful comes full circle. When we cultivate inner stillness, when we learn to guard our intellect, to listen to the wisdom of our conscience, we open ourselves up to a deeper experience of beauty, not just in the world around us, but within ourselves as well.
It's like we're cultivating a deeper appreciation for the inherent beauty of existence itself.
Precisely. And that appreciation, that love of the beautiful, it becomes a source of strength, a source of inspiration, guiding us forward on our path, even when the way ahead seems uncertain.
This has been, wow, such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of what St. Isaiah is teaching, but I don't know, even in this short time, I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's amazing how relevant these ancient teachings still feel. It's like he was anticipating the challenges we'd be facing all these centuries later.
Right. Like he was writing directly to us, to anyone who's ever felt overwhelmed by the world and just, longed for that deeper sense of peace, of purpose.
Exactly. And he offers a way to navigate those challenges.
Yeah.
A way to reconnect with that inner source of strength and wisdom.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways you'd want our listeners to really remember? What are the most important things we've learned from St. Isaiah?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's that emphasis on inner work.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the external world and achievements, possessions, all that. But St. Isaiah is like, nope, true transformation starts within.
It's like he's saying, if you want to change the world, start by changing yourself.
Exactly. And that inner work involves cultivating awareness, practicing vigilance, learning to guard our intellect from all those negative forces that can so easily distract us.
We talked about the Jesus prayer as a tool for cultivating that inner stillness, that focus. But it's not the only path, is it? Of course not. There are so many ways to connect with that deeper part of ourselves. Spending time in nature, practicing mindfulness, even things like engaging in creative pursuits. These can all be powerful ways to quiet the mind and reconnect with peace and clarity.
And that's where this idea of love of the beautiful comes in, isn't it? It's not just like, aesthetic appreciation, but something deeper, recognizing the inherent beauty and sacredness in all of life, even in the midst of difficulty and suffering.
That's beautifully put. And it's that recognition, that awareness of the interconnectedness of all things that allows us to face the challenges with grace and resilience.
And St. Isaiah reminds us, too, that we don't have to go through this alone. Finding a mentor, connecting with a community, it can offer so much support and guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. That sense of shared purpose, of support, can make all the difference. It's like having a group of fellow travelers, who understand the terrain and can help you stay on the path when it gets rough. So if someone listening is feeling inspired to explore St. Isaiah's teachings more, where would you recommend they start?
Well, the Philokalia itself is amazing. So much wisdom packed in there. But it can be kind of daunting to approach such a huge collection, I'd recommend starting with a translation of just St. Isaiah's writings. There's some excellent ones out there.
And maybe finding a group or a teacher, someone who can offer guidance as they delve in.
Definitely. There are tons of resources, online, local communities. The important thing is to find what resonates with you, what speaks to your heart and inspires you to continue on this journey.
Well, this deep dive has been so enriching, and I really hope our listeners feel inspired to keep exploring these teachings, to see how they can apply this wisdom to their own lives.
I hope so too. St. Isaiah's message is timeless, really. A call to awaken to the beauty that's all around us, to cultivate the strength and clarity we need to face the challenges of our times.
And as we wrap up, we'll leave you with a question to ponder. If you could ask St. Isaiah one question about guarding the intellect, what would it be?
Let that question be your starting point, a way to delve deeper into the wisdom of the Philokalia.
Until next time, may your journey be filled with peace, with joy, and a deep connection to the beautiful.